Now, a little while ago, I made a video on Milton Keynes and asked the question of whether or not it was soulless. And I think I made my point that it isn't. It's just a new city. But someone left a comment on that video and said, if you really want to see a soulless city, come to Hemel Hempstead. So that's what I've done today. I've come to Hemel Hempstead and I'm going to walk from one side to the other because Hemel really is a city of two halves, or at least a town of two halves. Now something Hemel Hempstead has that Milton Keynes doesn't is a magic roundabout. It's not as famous as the one in Swindon, but, well, they call it a magic roundabout here, so it's got that. So for pedestrians, there is a subway art tunnel to go under the magic roundabout so that you don't get run over, because it is a bit of a nightmare up there. The magic roundabout is just a two-way roundabout surrounded by other roundabouts. At least it's a safe way across the road, separates the cars from the people. So just over the road from the magic roundabout, it turns into a pedestrian area. Obviously the cars go elsewhere, and almost like an outdoor shopping mall, which is quite weird because they also have an indoor shopping mall. But I'm not sure I'd say any of it is actually soulless. It's modern, but it's not terribly bad looking. And the shops that are vacant, you can't really tell. And an awful lot of shops aren't vacant, whereas in Milton Keynes and Chepstow and other places I've been, lots of them are. It's quite a full shopping area, which is kind of awesome. Now, the original plan for Hemel Hempstead was to be built as a city in a park, which didn't work out quite to plan. It wasn't too far off, so it's a very different type of city to Milton Keynes, which was built on the American grid type system. But you can see the city within a park ethos, which this statue just told me about, if you just take a left off the main Marlow Street every now and then. So Hemel Hempstead really is just built on one street all the way through the middle. There's a couple of side streets, but they're not where the major shopping areas are. And off the side streets, you really do get to see the idea of the park to surround the city. Which is pretty impressive. Obviously not to the original design, but it's close enough. We'll head back onto Marlow's over Main Street now. We'll carry on our tour up the one straight road through Hemel. There's there's one of the boarded up shops. I've only seen a couple. But they fit with the rest of the town quite well, so you don't really notice. Over to the left, and I've boarded up B&M, which is quite rare. So it just carries on. We're now at the top end. That's Hemel, where we just walked from down there. We're just going to keep on walking up towards the old town. like any large town, Hemel Hempstead has its problems, and I just walked past one outside and off license. Two guys having an argument. Apparently one pushed in line in front of the other, so he got hit with a bottle of wine at 12:30 in the afternoon. So as we get to the end of Marlowe's, this is where things start to change. Now I could go left there and go through the parks, but we'll get to those in a minute. Instead I'm going to go right and then left here. You didn't see me? Hopefully this guy does. Yep. So we're heading out of new Hemel Hempstead, which was built mainly in the 50s. Well, late 40s, 50s. It's had revamps pretty much every decade or so after. And we're heading to old Hemel Hempstead, which is literally attached. It's, I don't know my clock face, but it's at the end of Marlowe's. You then have Hemel Hempstead High Street, and it is a very different Hemel Hempstead to what we just walked through. Just as windy though. So this part of Hemel Hempstead is from the 15th and 16th century, or at least most of the buildings here are. Some of the settlement is before that. Like the White Hart we just passed was from very late 14th century. It's about 1390s. But Hemel Hempstead's been here in some form or another since about 800. That makes it a 1200-year-old town. In fact, the Romans were here for a short while, and then in the 16th century, Henry VIII gave it its town charter, which meant it was allowed to have markets. So the old King's Arms from the 1500s, so roughly 500 years old. If we walk through the Corn Exchange, hopefully it's not too bright, but a nice old church. So when I said earlier that Hemel Hempstead is a town with two histories, this is what I meant. We're just coming to the end now of the old high street. More houses to the left, shops still to the right. A lot of these shops have been here since the 16 and 1700s. I'm going to guess the houses even longer. But at the end of the road here, we're going to go left. And then, much like the rest of Hemel Hempstead, we come to a park around the city. And much like any other city, it has many of the same city problems. So is Hemel Hempstead soulless? No, I would argue that it's not. It has a very rich history, over 1200 years of it. Yes, the new town is a little bit boring, but it's a new town. The whole point of it was to be built quickly and to take some of the strain away from London, especially after the Blitz. There's two reasons for that. Obviously during the Blitz, lots of people were made homeless, so they needed somewhere quick built so that those homeless people could live. So that's where the new towns came from. But also to spread the population, because if you have big population centres, they become big targets during wars. So Hemel Hempstead is less than 40 minutes outside of London. It's probably less than half an hour on the train. It's about half an hour away from Milton Keynes, which is another new town built for the very same reasons. It has its boring areas. It also has an awful lot of history, and it's an interesting concept to build an entire town off one street and surround it with an awful lot of green spaces. So no, I don't agree that Hemel Hempstead's soulless. It just needs a little bit of work, like an awful lot of the United Kingdom just now. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you found this video interesting, at least, or a conversation starter. If you agree or disagree, don't forget to leave a comment. If you have any other towns or places you want me to visit, especially if you think they're soulless, let me know. Otherwise, I'll catch you in the next one.